Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
I trust,
I trust, love,
love, and respect
and respect
all the
all the
different
different
parts of me
parts of me
to
to
work
work together
as I
as I
live
live
my
my
most
most
creative,
creative,
honest,
honest,
and
and
beautiful
beautiful
life.
life.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Okay, I trust,
Trust,
love,
love,
and
and
respect
respect
all
all the
the different
different
parts
parts of me
to
to
work
work
together
together
as I
as I
live
live
my most
my most
creative,
creative,
honest,
honest,
and
and
beautiful
beautiful life.
life. Yay.
Welcome to True and Unpolished with Lydia Singleton and Mary Howe. Our intention is to uplift, amuse, and inspire you to create more of a life you'll love through sharing our always true and often unpolished conversations. Let's get authentic, everybody.
So I love yes,
That's our mantra for the day,
I love it.
for
We'll
the
do it
week, for the month,
for the
for the
lifetime.
year. Yeah, forever.
Right. Uh, yesterday, yeah, my older son had his football game, and he had asked me to reach out to one of the coaches about something, and there's like all these politics involved with all this stuff. And so I had reached out to this coach, and this coach sent me back the most infantilizing,
What did
con-
it say?
it was condescending text. It was like he's like, it's not about one player, it's about the whole team. Da, 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 da. But the way he said, I mean, like it was totally cutting, and I can't even remember what it was. And I can't even like talk to him directly because the whole like there's a procedure. Like I have to reach out to the coordinator, and the coordinator is supposed to reach out to him and like supposed to play the intermediary, which what is that?
What?
Triangulation, but whatever. And so I thought,
You
okay,
can't talk to the coach directly?
no.
Is this like is he in, like, still in Little League football?
Yes, but you would not know it. Yes, yes. And so I cannot reach out to the coach directly. I reach out to this coordinator, and there are many coaches. And I'm just saying, two of the coaches, not all of them, but two of the coaches have children that are in all the time and they play both sides of the ball. Anyway, I'm not even gonna go there because that's not what I was reaching out about. I was reaching out because there was a legitimate question, and I even framed it that way. I said, I just want to be able to, have a dialogue with my son about this, and so that I can understand, so I can then relay it to him. That was like the sum total of what I said. Like it was the definition of diplomatic. And then he comes back with this terrible thing. And I was like, this is not okay. Of course, I'm talking to the coordinator, not him. And I said, can I just talk to him so that so I can get the actual answer to my question? And she's like, no. And then she comes back and she was like, well, if you must reach out to somebody, reach out to this guy who's not the coach, but like the bigger coach. I don't know, whatever. And and I said, I just want to say that I think this is like the most ridiculous thing ever, that a grown man is hiding behind a ridiculous procedure and will not speak to me directly about this. Anyway, whatever. So this coach, his wife comes to the game because he has a son that plays in the game. And last week she gave me the like, if looks could kill, totally, I'd be dead. Like, she gave me the worst look. And I said to my husband yesterday, so this is like fast forward a week. Now we're going back there. And I was like, listen, I said, if that woman gives me that look again, I am going to say to her, I'm sorry, are we in high school? Because I feel like you're a mean girl and I just walked by your locker. And he was like, he goes, what did he say? He goes, fight, flight, or freeze. And I was like, and I took a second because I recognize that like Eckhart Tolle in his book would say that I'm like planning. And so that was coming from my ego. And that was what the old me would have said to this version of me. And so I stopped and I took a breath and I was like, no, that's actually not what this is. This is me being fierce and defending myself. Like I don't have to feel bullied because that's how I felt. Was totally bullied last week.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, this spiritual journey we're on, I am so trying to find the balance between like being true to my soul, right? And also being human. Like I don't, and I'm so confused because if you, all the teachers, they say that you like, don't do this, right?
Don't do what? Fight?
Like the ego. Like, so if I was planning, like Michael Singer specifically in his book Untethered Soul says, if you are sitting and like thinking about what you're going to say,
Yeah,
then
that's your ego.
right. Although,
So
wait,
are you saying it wasn't your ego and now you're confused because everybody else saying it's your ego and you're saying it's not? What are you
what I'm
confused
confused
about?
about is like what that example illustrates about the broader question, which is what is the balance between being fierce, because that's my word for the year, and being passionate and loving toward myself. And that's what I told my husband when he said that. I said, no, I am being fierce. I'm being passionately loving toward myself and defending myself. I don't have to take that, and I'm not gonna. And that is not what I would have said even probably a year ago.
It's probably not what you will say in another year or
Oh
so.
my gosh, that is so true.
So I think you are where you are and you can't be anywhere else.
Yeah. But I think,
So being gentle with where you are, I don't I don't think there's anything wrong with defending yourself. I think what you're doing is you're creating a story in your head,
yeah.
and that's not usually very effective. But in the moment, if something like that comes up and you are inspired to react, that may or may not be coming from an egoic place.
Yeah.
So if you said that, whatever, we're not in high school in the moment, it could be coming from an egoic place. And it could also be coming from that fierce place that you're
Yeah.
wanting to get at.
So maybe because I'm projecting into a future situation that which hasn't happened.
Yeah. I think there's something to that. I also think that, on one hand, it's like, okay, well, yeah, it is egoic, but I mean, for heaven's sake, I'm human and it's okay to be human.
Yeah, but I think too, as we're talking about this, I realize that because this is so foreign to me and so not what I've practiced in the past, that it's like I needed a script. And I don't think I necessarily would have said that. I think I just needed like to be prepared to be fierce. And that was a way of doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'm not
So what, I guess what is fierce? I mean, we've talked about it a lot this year since it's your word, but do you have any new insights about what that word means?
So I think that it's at its essence, it is that love doesn't always say yes. Like if I could sum it up in one sentence, it's love doesn't always say yes. And that means that my job is to recognize those moments in which it's time for me to advocate for myself or and say no or say yes. And I remember Byron Katie says that, like, you, I lost it.
Okay, so I think that what you just described saying in your head in this made up scenario
In this
is
fictional
not
situation.
is not necessarily what you're going for, because when you said it, to me, it felt on your end, like in your part of the made up conversation,
I know.
it sounded a little Mean Girls.
It was.
Yeah. So, and that's not who you are in your essence. And I don't think when you assign that word or were inspired to have that word for the year, I don't think that's what you're getting at. You're not trying to be a mean girl,
No, I'm not.
fierce.
No.
You're trying to stand up and advocate lovingly for yourself and, set healthy, loving boundaries
Yeah.
with other people.
Yeah.
So there's other ways that you can stand up for yourself without being sort of passive aggressive, sarcastic,
Right.
so I think if you're role playing a scenario like that in your mind, then maybe coming up with some other
Tools other than sarcasm.
options.
Yeah, because sarcasm is definitely a tool.
Well, and it's not, I mean, sarcasm is a useful tool a lot of times. I mean, when I work with clients, sometimes that is the most effective tool because they're not expecting it. I
Mhm.
mean, and my friends, I do it too, because you think, oh, Mary's going to be so, empathetic or loving or whatever. And so you throw some kind of sarcasm out there. It takes people, it kind of gives you a jolt and then takes you off guard, which I think can be very helpful in shifting some
Yeah,
dynamic. But
absolutely.
not if it comes from a biting,
Yeah.
Ugly
Yeah.
place.
Yeah. And totally, because I know that behind it was, I am so clever. You know what I mean? Like mic drop.
Yeah.
Like, look how smart I am.
Yeah.
Kind of energy toward it.
Yeah.
And I didn't do it, but I also, yeah, that's helpful because I think that it's one of the overcorrecting situations. And that's what I'm trying not to do. I'm trying not to overcorrect. Um, and I think that there was a time where, biting was what I used. And then, like, I went way over to the other side and
Mm-hmm.
was self deprecating, not out loud, but definitely, and not necessarily with my words, but with my actions in the way that I didn't set healthy boundaries. And so I don't want to overcorrect with fears. I want to actually embody the definition of it. Oh, this is good because there's 3 definitions for the word fierce. If you look it up in Webster's
Mm-hmm.
dictionary, and it's the 3rd definition that I'm talking about. So it's the recognition that there is actually different ways to be fierce. And I don't want to be fierce in all of those ways. I want to be fierce in the one way, which is passionately and soul filled advocating. I can't remember the exact definition, but it's essentially that you do things with passion, but a passion from a place of love.
Right. So I think, that statement that we started with, I trust, love, and respect all the different parts of me to
Yeah.
work together. So there's different parts of us that show up at different moments in our life. And sometimes, those are often the shadow aspects of ourselves that get hidden. And so what I think happens is it's like oh, Mary and I were talking about that time where I was making this thing up about this situation that never happened. And I, like, you know, almost said something really, you know, mean girl and catty to this other woman. And so I'm going to hide that part and not ever do anything like that, because that makes me a mean girl and a bad person, and, you
Yeah.
know, whatever. So even in those moments, recognizing, oh, it would have been okay if I'd said that, but I can also say this instead.
Right.
So I think it's not sort of stuffing those parts, being authentic in our own, you know, being truthful
Yeah.
in how we uncover those parts of ourselves and accept those parts of ourselves, those unpolished parts of ourselves, right? So the
Mhm.
more that we are able to do that and really allow those parts to arise, hopefully they arise like they did with this situation. And then we have loving people in our lives to say, well, you know,
Yeah.
like your husband saying, well, you know, is that really the best way to handle that situation or whatever?
Yeah.
Then maybe we don't always act on those parts of ourselves, but recognizing that part of myself that was having that conversation and getting all, you know, fierce and feisty in my mind
Mhm.
is actually a beneficial part of myself.
Yeah. Right. And that's, I mean, this being human, it's just like trying to, and maybe, and I think that I know that I overthink it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean because you know me. Do you have, I was inspired to ask you about your word.
Okay. So I had it muted because there's a dog barking in my
Yeah,
house.
figured it out.
Um so but yeah, my word is magic. And I actually had the most magical weekend. I went to this magical place. It's called Lake Logan. It's in North Carolina. And it's just, it rained all weekend, but it was like a misty kind of mystical kind of rain, you
Mm.
know, magical kind of rain. And the lake is like covered in trees, you know, there's, I mean, surrounded by trees, and there are these little magical cabins. They're like stone and log cabins,
Mm.
and they were built, well, they were moved to that property from another property in the 1930s, but I don't know how old they are, but they're older than that. So they're these just precious, beautiful cabins. Um, and everything was like lush and green, and there's just like this mist coming constantly. There's like a crisp coolness in the air because it's been, you know, summer and hot and humid and hot, very hot. And, you know, so it's like this first like taste of fall air, you know, that cool, crisp air. So that was magical. And my word is magic, but even just the week before, you know, last week on the last episode that we did, I was like nowhere near a magical place. I mean, I was like, this is stupid, life is stupid. Um, you know, what's the point? I mean, really just kind of over the top on the opposite end of the spectrum from magical. And I started thinking about it at that point, thinking about my word of the year and how kind of far away from it I was at that point. But I also remember the year before last year being, my word was open. And so I said at the end of last year that I was going to continue to practice being open, because that's really the way that the magic gets in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we're not open, then we're not going to see the magic. And so I'm just confirming that is true. And I know this because I have closed myself off again. And I have closed off, I think, the magic.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that sometimes what we do is it's like we need it to be all magic or not magic at all. Like our ego needs that,
yeah,
because then we can go, okay, see, nothing's good and nothing's going to be okay. And nothing's, this is stupid. Life is stupid. Or
right.
everything is magic. Everything is magic. And that's our way of almost self-protecting, because it is more, in my experience, is more the highs and lows and the disparity between the two that feels
Mhm.
uncomfortable than the actual place.
So say that,
A different
what
way.
do you mean by that? Yeah.
So the disparity is between the two, meaning if I'm high one day, so magic, everything's magic, and then the next day I'm feeling down about life or myself, that drop is actually what we fear. We fear the drop, or we fear that in between space, because it's an unknown. It's kind of,
Mhm.
there's less seeming control in that space than there is in the everything's not magic or everything's magic space.
I don't know. I mean, I think,
Like the lady at the post office yesterday, she said, I'm having a medium day. And I was like, oh, that's good. She's like, not too busy, but the time isn't like crawling by. Like I'm having a medium day. And there's an evenness to feeling one way, like medium in this instance, the way that I'm pointing to it is, okay, this is solid, it's secure, it's safe. And I think that you are having a medium day if you're either everything's magic or nothing's magic at all. But it feels off kilter. Like you feel out of
you think a
balance.
medium day is a magic day or not I don't know if I agree with that, because I think that, first of all, when you describe the medium day, then that feels like content. That
Yeah.
feels like peace. It feels good. Like a medium day is actually good.
Yeah. No, I
Like,
said
it's
that
the
to her
best
too.
kind of day to have.
I was like, oh, that's great. You're having a medium day. But what I mean by that is the reason why we're content is because it's same.
Well, yeah, maybe. And like when I mean, the reason this place was magical was because I was present.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really magical. It was a really beautiful place. But you can be somewhere beautiful at any time and not have a magical experience.
Yes.
And I was leading a personal retreat, and so I brought presence to that on, intentional, because it wasn't for me, it was for other people.
Right.
So I was intentionally present, came with presence. And I think that makes the difference, being present for the experience. So, and having some gratitude for the experience is what made it magical.
So tell me, how are you doing on the word magic in general? Like, have you had any new insights into what you meant?
Well, it's interesting because I honestly, I think that I maybe chose that word just to give myself a break.
Yeah.
Like every word there's been a challenge. And one interesting thing is you wouldn't believe how many times people have said to me this year that I am magical.
Oh, that's great.
Um, and so I really think it's been kind of recognizing that, which is what within me,
Mm-hmm.
um, more than an external experience, really, which is not what again, it never is. These words of the year are never what you think they're going to be.
No.
Um, that I never thought it was an internal process. Aside from being open to my experiences, I didn't think of it as an internal process. I thought of it as an, you know, an observation of the external world.
That is so strange because I am historically have been the opposite of that. And so now this year for me, I think the word was intentionally about external because I've been so internally focused. And I've had years in which I've had the experience of feeling magical or having other people reflect that back to me. And this is not one of those years.
Mm,
Definitely not. And part of what I've been doing is like embracing that, not needing to be magical, like being
right.
okay with it, not being that, um, not being a guru, not being, the most evolved person in the room. Not that I was, but you know what I mean? Like not striving to be the most evolved person in the room.
Yeah. Well, I think that makes you the most evolved person in the room, ironically.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, like, makes us, I mean, not you in particular, but when we aren't striving and we're just allowing ourselves to be all of who we are, all the different parts of ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, we need to love all those parts of ourselves. That's what it's about. But it's not about loving them to cure them. It's about loving them and allowing them to be there and to be present.
Accepting them,
Mhm.
yeah, not trying to cure, yeah, those parts of ourselves.
And I think that I have had, moments, times, and maybe, I'm open to it being the whole thing, but I don't think it is. But I think that sometimes for me, the spiritual journey has been about curing me, from what I perceive to be broken within myself. And,
Yeah,
and instead of, embracing it as, oh, the journey is the journey, not, I know, God, cliche, not the destination, but the journey is the journey. I'm having one of those moments where like the words don't do it justice, and like I'm waking up to the realization.
the realization that words don't do it justice.
No, the realization that the journey's about, life is the journey. Like that's it. There isn't a destination ever, and it's a journey. And the
Yeah.
point is
Ugh,
the journey.
ugh,
I
that
know.
sucks.
I know. But doesn't
Um,
it though? Like to me, it's like, oh, in this moment.
yes, it does. A very lot more, very often, a lot of the time. Yes, it does suck a
Yeah.
lot. But yeah, I mean, I think when we accept that is the reality,
Yeah,
I mean, life's a bitch, then you die. Remember
that's
that from
right.
the
That's right.
1980s?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
were hardly born, but whatever.
The 1980s, I was hardly born. Yes, you're right. I was hardly born.
Life's a bitch and then you die.
Yeah.
And then it got softer. Life's a beach and then you die.
Yeah, that's right. No, there's this.
But I think we're back to life's a bitch and then you die.
And we hope that death is better.
Right.
Well,
No, we hope that, I mean, what I teach, what I believe most of the time, because surely not all of the time, because some of those parts of myself can be very melancholy and very negative. Most of the time, though, I truly believe that we do have the ability to be content.
yeah,
We do not have the ability to be free of pain and suffering.
yeah,
Well, more free of suffering than pain. I mean, that whole pain is inevitable and suffering is a choice thing.
yes,
So I do believe that we can create more contentedness,
yeah,
and it's a practice of gratitude, a practice of mindfulness, a practice of just that Zen saying, chop wood, carry water.
right.
Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop
Chop
wood,
carry water.
carry water. Before contentedness, chop wood, carry water. After contentedness, chop wood, carry water.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you still have to wash the friggin' dishes or
Yeah,
fold the
man.
clothes,
I know.
feed the kids or the
I know.
animals. You got to do that every single flipping day.
I know. Make your bed, brush your teeth,
Yeah, I don't mind making my bed as long as somebody doesn't F
mess
up
it
the
up.
covers too
I know.
bad.
Well, I don't mess up the covers when I sleep, but my husband does. So I'm sensing that maybe the number one fan in the Southeast region also does that. That's funny.
No, not usually, but
Sometimes.
but yeah,
Yeah.
I have had people in my bed who really do mess the covers up and it drives me nuts.
I have
But
gotten to a place of making him sleep on top of the covers.
that is mean.
No,
Mean girl.
I bring in
Your
a
mean girl
blanket.
parts are coming out again.
I bring in an external blanket that is separate and apart from the bed making procedure.
Okay.
Yeah, like I don't leave him in the cold.
Yeah. Well, you could also teach him how to make a bed.
Yeah, well, that seems insurmountable, I have to say. That feels like,
Oh, ouch.
I know. Sorry, honey, but it's a little true.
Well, remember, before contentedness,
Chop wood, carry water, make the bed. After
yep,
contentedness, make the bed.
yep,
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that this has been fiercely magical.
fiercely magical.
Fiercely magical. I love it. See? Subscribe, everybody. Follow us, please. Mary, what do you have to say about that?
2 thumbs up on the likes.
That's right. I wish y'all could see her. She looks so cute. You know what we might do is put this on YouTube, like the unedited version on YouTube. Because we've had a couple of really cute like looks about us. Okay. That yeah, we're definitely doing it. Okay, you have been listening to True and Unpolished, the podcast. Let's see what happens next.